learn yesterday?
Common factor and the
Put your
difference.
hand up. Okay, so we learned the greatest common factor. And we learned the difference of squares. Difference of squares. All right. What's the greatest common factor? Like, when do I take out the greatest common factors? Yeah.
The largest number that divides into all terms.
Okay, so that's the largest number that you can divide all terms by. What else? Is it only a number?
It could be a variable.
It could be a variable as well, right? So it's a number, it's a term, right? So it's the largest term, and that would be a number or a variable, okay? And then what do I do when I take it out? What do I do with it? What do I do with it when I take it out?
You divide it by what's on the inside.
So you divide each term by it, okay? So you divide each term by that greatest common factor, all right? And then you leave it outside and you leave the leftovers in there. So let's say if you have, for example, 7x squared plus 21x minus 14, right? What would be your greatest common factor here? 7, right? So you're going to take that 7 out, and then you're going to divide each term by 7, right? And that will give you x squared plus 3x minus 2. Okay? So in this case, our greatest common factor is just a number, right? But in other cases, for example, if I have 4x cubed minus 6x squared plus 2x, what would be your greatest common factor here? 2x? 2x. Why is it 2x in this case and not only 2? Because all of the terms have x's. And the lowest exponent is 1, so I'm going to take the x with exponent 1x, right? So the important part here is you see in the first one that we did, not all the terms had x, right? So I couldn't take an x out. In the second one, all the terms have the letter x, so I can take an x out. Now I have to look at my lowest exponent, and my lowest exponent is 1, so that's why it's x to the power of 1 that I'm taking out. And 2 is a common number for all of them. So my greatest common factor is 2x, right? So I have to divide each term by 2x. What do I have left for the first one? 2x squared. Okay, how about for the second one? So 3x. Thank you. Right? Because I'm going to write exactly what you guys said. Plus 1. Because the x and the x, they're going to cancel each other. The 2 and the 2, that's 1. When you divide something by itself, it gives you 1.
Do you have to? Oh, okay.
Yeah. When you divide something by itself, it gives you 1. All right? Are we okay with this? All right. Now, so we learned about the greatest common factor, but we also learned about the difference of squares. What do I have to have for the difference of squares, for me to be able to factor using difference of squares? So 2 squared terms, right? I have to have 2 squared terms. And a negative in between. Can you guys give me 2 squared terms and a negative in between?
45,
49. 49.
okay.
Okay, so how can I factor this? That's right. So I open two brackets. I know they're two square terms. I open brackets. One is going to be plus, the other one's going to be minus, and I square root. So square root of x squared is x, and then square root of 49 is 7, and that would be my factor. Okay, so this is factored form right now. This is the factored form of x squared minus 49. Are we okay with that? All right. Now, we're going to look at a different type of factoring. So the difference of squares, this is just a reminder, difference of squares can only be used when you have two terms. They have to be square terms with a minus between them. But the problem is, I don't have only two terms for all my polynomials, right? So polynomials sometimes have three terms, right? How can I factor something that has three terms? This is what we're looking at today, okay? So today we're going to factor by sum and product. The process is called sum and product. When given a trinomial in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is equal to 1. We're only going to learn how to factor with a equal to 1. Okay? If a is not equal to 1, you can't use that process. There is another process, but we don't learn it in this course. Okay? So the whole idea or the goal for today is to be able to factor a trinomial, so three terms, when a is equal to 1. All right? So, I have, in this case, x squared plus 4x minus 12. Does this look like a trinomial to you? Yeah, trinomial, three terms? Do you see the three terms? Perfect. What's the a value? 1. What's the b value? 4. What's the c value?
12.
So it's 20 degrees outside today. It's 20 degrees? It's what?
Sorry, negative 12.
It's negative 20 degrees outside, right? Good. So what's the c value? Thank you. It's negative 12. All right. Imagine you going outside today. I don't know how many times I have to remind you of this. Okay, so a is 1, and I need to be able to determine this. I need to be able to see this, right? I need to be able to understand that a is 1, b is 4, and c is negative 12. Okay? Why do I need to know this? Because we're going to use the b and the c. Now, a has to be 1. Okay? A has to be 1. Now, we're going to use the b and the c to be able to factor. So we're looking at two numbers that multiply to c and add to b. That's why it's called sum and product. Sum means what? Addition. What's product? Multiplication. Right? So add means sum means addition, and product means multiplication. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to something and add to something. Okay? Now, what do they multiply to? That we want two factors of c, so they multiply to c and add to b. That's what I'm looking for. So we're going to set a table. I'm going to set the table outside. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to c. What's c? Negative 12. And add or sum. Do you want me to write multiply and add, or s and p and s? What do you want to use? Sum and product? Multiply and add. Okay. Now multiply to negative 12 and add to 4. That's what we're looking. You always look at the multiplication, because with the multiplication you only have a set of numbers. Okay? You don't have too many numbers that multiply to negative 12. You have way too many numbers that add to 4. If we're looking at negative and positive numbers, there's way too many numbers that add to 4. So you always have to look at the multiplication first. Okay? So negative 12. Now, you guys have your blue sheet in front of you, okay? That blue sheet is gonna help you determine which number is going to be positive and which number is going to be negative, okay? So, in this case, B is positive and C is negative. So if I'm looking at this, B is positive and C is negative. So which one of these columns are you gonna look at? The first column, second column, third column?
Third.
Third column. Third column, right?
Yeah.
And that's because B is positive and C is negative.
Yeah.
Okay? B is positive, C is negative. That means my large number has to be positive and my small number has to be negative. Okay? So keep that in mind. What multiplies to 12? 4 and 4 times what? 4 times 3. Now the big number has to be positive and the small number has to be negative, right? So it's going to be 4 and negative 3. Yep.
And then 6 and negative 2.
6 and negative 2. Can you give me another one that multiplies to 12? 12 and negative 1. Is that it? Or do I have any other options? We already have that. So the 4 and negative 3 is the same thing. Yeah. We already have it. Any other? That's it, right? That's it. Okay, now let's see what do they add to. What's 4 plus negative 3? 4.
1.
Okay.
1.
Okay, what's 6 plus negative 2?
4.
What's 12 plus negative 1?
11.
11. So which two numbers multiply to negative 12 and add to 4? 6 and negative 2. So I found my factors. Okay? So I found my factors. So this is my factor, 6 and negative 2, because that's what adds to 4. The other two options I can't use because it does not add to 4. All right? So once I find my factor, I can put it in factored form. Factored form is going to be x, and then you're going to put your factors in the bracket. So it's going to be x plus 6. And then what do you think the second one is going to be?
X minus 2.
X minus 2. Okay, I'm sorry guys, I should have put the table here, and I guess that I should have put this here, but it doesn't matter. That's your final answer. That's your final answer. Okay? Now let's see. Let's see. If I take this factored form, I just want to do my testing, okay? So I have the x plus 6, x minus 2. What do you need to do to go back to the standard form? Yeah.
Multiply the terms in the first bracket, multiply the terms in the second.
What is it called? What is that process called?
Simplify.
No. Before I simplify, what is it called? Expand. Expand. Okay, let's expand this. Let's see if we're going to get what we started with. Okay? X times x. X times negative 2.
2x, negative 2x,
Negative 2x. 6 times x.
6x,
Positive 6x. And then 6 times negative 2. Negative 12. Okay? So like term, minus 2x plus 6x gives me plus 4x minus 12. Is that what I started with? Is that what I started with here? So is my answer correct?
Yes.
Okay? So remember, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to C and add to what letter? B. Multiply to C and add to B. You can keep it whatever you want to keep. Now, does it matter if I write x minus 2 first and x plus 6 second? Does it matter? No. So that blue sheet is going to help you decide if your terms are going to be positive, if they're going to be negative, or which one's going to be positive, which one's going to be negative. Okay?
X is negative,
Which x?
like A.
Then you're going to have to factor that negative out first. So we'll talk about that in a bit, like in the next lesson. Okay? You always, guys, greatest common factor is always the first question that you're going to ask yourself. Okay? Because you can always do greatest common factor first, if there is any, and then either perform sum and product or perform the the difference of squares. Okay? So when it comes to factoring, you always have to do this. You always have to think, do I have a greatest common factor? If you do, then you do that first. Okay? After you do your greatest common factor, then you have two options. Either the difference of squares or the sum and product. It depends on what I have. Do I have two terms and a minus, or do I have all three terms? Okay? So sometimes you have to do the greatest common factor. Okay? We'll talk more about this when we talk about combination of factors. So let's look at this. So I have x squared plus 8x plus 12. Trinomial? Yes. So that means I have to think about sum and product. Right? Because it's a trinomial, I have to think about sum and product. What's my a value? A is 1, B is 8, and C is 12. So A is 1, B is 8, C is 12. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to,
B and C.
multiply to what?
C.
Multiply to C, so that's multiply to 12. And add to
B.
8. Okay, so two numbers that multiply to 12. 6 and 2, what else? What multiplies to 12? 6 and 2,
3 and 4.
3 and 4, 12 and 1. Which one of them add to 8? 6 and 2 add to 8, 3 and 4 add to 7, 12 and 1 add to 13. Okay? So that means my answer is going to be, again this time, 6 and 2. But both of them are going to be positive. So it's going to be x plus 6, x plus 2. Because both B and C are positive. So if you look here, when both B and C are positive, then both of your terms are going to be positive. Okay. Think about the next one. So what am I looking for here? Please put your hand up. Right.
Negative 18.
So what's negative 18?
Find numbers
multiply to negative 18, yeah?
2 times negative 9.
And then add to, just let's finish this part. Add to,
Add to 7. Negative 7.
thank you. Okay, so what multiplied to negative 18?
2 times negative 9.
So why did we decide to go with the negative 9 instead of,
Oh, we could negative 2 times 9.
no, why, the first one was right, why? So if you look at this, both B and C are what?
Negative.
Both of them are negative. So in this case, I have to go down to here. B is negative and C is negative. So that means the large number has to be negative. Okay? So if you're looking at 9 and 2, the large number is 9. So 9 is going to be negative. Okay? What? Look at the bottom. Because B and C are both negative. So you see B is negative and C is negative. That means the large number has to be negative and the small number has to be positive.
What large number?
The factors. So what multiplies to 18?
2 times negative 9.
So 2 and 9, right?
Yeah.
So 2, oops. 1 second. So 2 and 9. Which one is a bigger number, 2 or 9? 9. So 9 is going to be negative because it says here that the large number has to be negative. Are we okay with that? All right. What else multiplied to 18?
3 times 6.
1 times negative 9.
Negative 18, you mean?
I mean negative 18.
And then I heard 3 and negative 6, right? All right. Good. Now let's see what do they add to. What's 2 plus minus 9?
Negative 7.
Negative 7. What's 1 plus minus 18?
Negative 17.
3 plus minus 6.
Negative 3.
Okay, so which one is my answer? Because I'm looking for numbers that add to
7.
negative 7. So which one would it be?
2x take away
And
negative 9.
negative 9.
So what do I write here?
X plus 2.
Yeah?
And then x take away 9.
Oops. Okay, that makes sense.
That makes so much sense now.
Yep. Yep.
B x and minus 9 and x plus 2.
Okay. How about you take some time to do the other 4 questions and then we'll take them up. All right?